Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Yalla Salesforce. We will continue our journey with Yalla Salesforce Trailhead. Over the last couple of sessions, we started a new chapter, understanding more about Salesforce Administrator, jumping more into business process automation, understanding more about the flow, digging more into the flow builder, understanding the UI, navigating across the different elements, understanding the different types of flows from screen flow, record trigger flow, auto launch flow. And then we started to understand more how can we manipulate this data using loops, assignment elements, understanding the variables, collections, hitting the database at the end by using data elements from create records, update records, and so on. We'll also learn more about actions and how can we utilize the actions within flows by doing an approval process, doing a chat or post, sending an email, and all of these great things we learn part of that module. After that, more into conditions, understanding the flow builder logic, making it more reusable, understanding more about custom labels, custom permissions, custom metadata, and how can we utilize all of these great stuff within the flow in order to increase the reusability and minimize like the number of changes that we need to perform on the flow if we need to dynamically change some labels, make it like allowing translations and all of these great stuff. After that, we jump to the record trigger flows, understanding the different context or execution modes within it, before save and after save to the database. And then we moved on to the asynchronous path and the schedule path and all of these great stuff. Today, we're going to jump into the auto launch flow and schedule flows. Any questions so far? So good? Lovely. All right. So we start the module by understanding what is auto launch and auto launch in lowercase versus uppercase. You will find in here when we go for a new flow. So if we went in here within setup and doing the flow in here, you will find when you create a new flow, you will find that this auto launched in here down there saying this is an auto launch flow as they are highlighting in here. So this is auto launch, this is auto launch, but this is in lowercase. That means it's just a background process. It might be waiting for a record to change in order to auto launch it and do whatever it needs to do, or it can be waiting for there is no trigger and I'm just waiting for another automation to call it, or a button, which is the auto launch in uppercase. So the only difference between those auto launch with the lowercase versus the uppercase, that all of them are background processes, no user interaction to them, but this is waiting the trigger, this one is not. And this is how we start our module in here, covering the difference. If you remember, we had the screen flow, and this was the only interactive guided process to the user. That's why we have a comparison in here. We are saying the flow type, the screen flow, runs without user interaction. The answer is no for screen flow, because screen flow has a user interaction. So run without is no. But all the other types like record trigger, schedule trigger, platform event, auto launch, all of these has no interaction. Accordingly, runs without user interaction. The answer is yes. Those ones are runs without trigger. So screen flow, there's no trigger. You click a button, you have a screen, you start to interact with it. So it runs without a trigger. But those record trigger, schedule trigger, platform event, this is waiting for a record. This is waiting for the schedule. This is waiting for a platform event. All of these run without trigger. Same thing for auto launch. There is no trigger. There is no time we are waiting for. It's just a click of a button or another automation that is calling it. Accordingly, it runs without a trigger. Any questions so far? So far, so good? Lovely. All right. So running an auto launch flow in here. It's great that your Salesforce org can run automation when something happens inside the org. But what if you wanted to run after a real life conversation or a physical handshake? All right. So that means we can run those auto launch flow using a custom button. We can put a button in the page layout or on the lightning page. And when I click it, something going to happen. And we're going to see it in action. When I have an Einstein Copilot, which is the Agentforce now, the new name, and I have a conversation and I need to execute an action, and I need this action to run in the background as a result of my conversation. So this can be an auto launch flow too. Another flow we cleared out before, understanding what is the flow and the subflow, and passing input parameters from the parent flow into the subflow, do the magic, and then having an output parameter and so on. This is again an auto launch flow. Same thing for other automation like Apex, Agentforce, flow orchestration, and API calls. So far so good. Lovely. Right. When we go back in here to see the different flows we have, you will find in here that we have a screen flow showing in there, but you will find a lot of other auto launch flow. And the process type will not tell you whether this is an auto launch flow because it's a record trigger, or it's an auto launch flow, or a platform event, and so on. So in order to see that, what you need to add one more field to this list view. So go in here like any other list view, and you will say select fields to display, and then you will find in here another field called trigger. This is what you need to add in order to understand exactly what is this type. So when you add it after the process type in here, you will be able to see that this auto launch flow is type of record and it's run after save. But this one is a platform event one, and this one is a scheduled one. So this is what we are covering in here. So if you went to all flows, you will be able to see the flow type. Well, with the flow type itself, you will not be able to know. So you need to add the trigger, because both of them will tell you exactly what is the type of that flow. Any questions? So far, so good? Lovely. All right. So let's go for the quiz. Which use case require an auto launch flow? So anything that is not interactive will be an auto launch flow. So launching interactive, the answer is no. Running interactive, the answer is no. Launching automation automatically, when a trigger happens in the Salesforce, we said no. There is no trigger for auto launch flow. So running non-interactive automation from a button, this is the right answer. All right, in setup flow list view, which field help differentiate a true auto launch flow from other auto launch flow? We just mentioned it is a trigger. So this is what will tell you exactly whether it's a trigger based or it's an auto launched. Woohoo! We did the first unit. All right, so let's jump to the next one, and let's start the hands-on. Automation that run with a single click. So it's the time for now. We need to clone cases, and we need to make sure that when I click a button on the Lightning page, I have a case and I need to clone it to a new case, copying over some of the details for the original case and tagging them together by having a cloned from case and storing its value. And this is what we are trying to achieve in here. So support managers to automate business processes. You are a Salesforce admin helping here automate some of the business processes, learning that when a customer calls an issue, they have received the support for in the past. Support technicians want to the ability to clone a related closed case. The standard clone button copies too much, all of the information, but we need to pick and choose which fields to copy over. Accordingly, we need to start doing this customization by doing an auto launch flow. Salesforce is pretty powerful and the Einstein is pretty smart, but only call agent can determine when the call ID probability is the same as something that was handled before. So it's time for doing this clone. All right, so cloning the specific information from a closed case requires no user interaction. Yes, there is no screen that we need to have an input. We will be always cloning certain information. Deciding when to perform this selective cloning process does require the user job. All right, so let's jump into the hands-on. We open the org, and we will need to do, before you start, you ask support team exactly. So let's gather the requirements. So they decide that the most important fields are ID, subject, account ID, and type. So let's help them to copy over those specific fields. Note that newly cloned case will have its own ID. Yeah, any record in Salesforce will have its own Salesforce ID, but we need to have another separate field called the cloned case. And this will be able to relate the old case with the new case. Perfect. So what we need to do, we need to jump to the case object. We need to create a new lookup relationship, and it is going to be related to the case, and this will be the name of the field. All right, so let's jump to it. Setup. In here, I will go for the object manager, case object, and within the case object, I'll go for fields and relationships. I'll go for new, and I will go for the lookup relationship. Next, what is the name of the field? It's cloned from. So let's do it. Cloned from. And then this is related to the case. Here we go. Next field. Let me clear out the field name, which is the API. So when I put in here, this is going to be generated, and this is the description. Next, I will be adding the visibility for all the things, adding to the page layout, and just hit save. Now we have for the case object another field called cloned from. Create an auto launch flow, and this is what we're gonna do. New flow, and now I will be hitting the auto launch flow. This is the auto launch flow. What do we need to do? Create an input variable for the case ID. So I will be passing a case ID with some extra information from that case as a parameter, and based on those past parameters, I will be cloning that case. So the first step is to create a new resource variable. This is the name for it. The data type is text, and I will say this is available for input. What else? I need to create a case subject, case account ID, and case type. So I will be done, new resource variable, case subject, and it's text, and it's available for input. One more variable, text, available for input, and this is the case account ID. And I will hit done. New resource, one more, case type, resource type, variable. Here we go, text, available for input, done. So I create 4 variables in here, which will help me while I'm doing this clone to use. Add, create a record element. So we will come in here saying I need to create this cloned case. And within in here, we will be naming it as clone case. Did I construct any variables? The answer is no. I don't have a record assignment for a variable for this cloned case. Accordingly, in order to do that, I will not say from a record variable. I will do it manually. What do I need to create? I need to create a case. What do I need to populate? I need to map all of these values from account ID. So I'll be putting in here account ID. I have subject. I have type. And I have cloned from. Type and cloned from. These are the different values we have. Where will be populating those fields from? From the variables that we will be passing. So I have in here case account ID variable. I have here case subject. I have here case type. I have here the case ID. Now we mapped all the values. Save the flow, name it, close the case, and let's activate it. Once we saved it, now we are what we built, Autolaunched Flow, accepting certain parameters, cloning the case by creating the new record and mapping all the values we have. Is that enough to trigger? We just mentioned that there is no trigger for the Autolaunched Flow. We need to create a button or another automation that will be calling it. All right, so what we're gonna do now, we will be adding a button on the Lightning page in order to make it work and start to interact with it. So how can we do that? We will go back in here with the flows. So when we refresh the flows in here, let's sort everything by the last modified. So we will get it on the very top. We will have our flow in here, clone. We will have clone close case. So if I go for view details, you will find in here a flow URL. So this is the type and all of these great stuff, but you will find in here a URL, and it's a relative path. So this is thinking that we are in that specific org and so on, but this is the flow URL. So this is the relative URL. And in here, they will be highlighting that this is coming from, it's just a relative URL. That's why it's short. We're taking this URL to use it to create a custom button. So how can we create this custom button? We'll go back to the case. This is the case option. And in here, you will find buttons, links, and actions. There is a new action and a new button. What is the difference? New action allow you to add still. It's the same thing that allow you to click a button on the screen, but it has like create a record, look a call, custom visual force, and so on. You will find one of the options is a flow, but in here, this is not an auto launch flow. Here will show you only the screen flows. In order to use an auto launch flow, you need to not go for new action, but you need to go for a new button. So let's go for a new button and see what is the art possible for this new action, new button that we will be creating. What will be the name of that button? So once we click and click new, we will need to name it as clone closed case. So let's go for this guy and the name it, the label is clone closed case. We have multiple options in here. This can be the custom button can be either a page link. So you will find in here, it's like this one, hyperlink within the record page, or it can be a detail page, which we will be doing right now. It's a button within the detail page, or it can be a related list button, which is under the related list. You'll find multiple buttons and you can create. For now, we will go for the detail page button. You have option in here as well in the behavior. This can be a display in a new window. You can have it display an existing window without sidebar or header, or without sidebar, and you will find the different UI option in the new window. This is going to be a new window, or it's in there without the header or without that, and so on. So we need to put it in here, display in an existing window without sidebar or header. And I believe this is what we picked. Content source will be URL. And you can guess what is the URL we will be using. So the URL will be the one we copied over from here, which is flow cloned case. So let's paste it in here, and we will wrap it up for this unit by just doing that. We created a button. Can we interact with that button? Not yet. We need to add it to a page in order to be able to interact with it. But we are wrapping up this unit by stopping in here. Any questions so far? So far, so good? Everyone understanding? Following? Lovely. All right. Let's jump to the hands-on challenge. Hands-on challenge are going to do exactly the same thing, but for campaign. So we will need to create a child campaign for a parent campaign, and we will be replicating exactly what we just built. Right. So let me go back in here saying that create an auto launch flow. Let's create a new flow, and I'll go for the auto launch flow. Same thing. We need to create a couple variables. So I will go in here saying new resource variable. This is the name, data type is text, and this is available for input. One more resource, it's gonna be the campaign name. So variable, campaign name, data type, available for input, done. New resource. Campaign owner, so the same thing. We are still creating text variables. So variable in here, and this is the API name, and this is the text, and it's available for input. And the next one will be campaign start date, but this one is date. So make sure that you pick the right data type. So within in here, I will go for the date, API name, camp start date, and this is as well available for input. Done. Add create a record in here, and then let's start doing the mapping. So create a record, what will be the name for it? Create a campaign. So this is the label, and this is the API, and we'll be doing it again manual, and the record this time is campaign, and let's do some mappings. We will be object of the campaign. The name will be the child of campaign name. All right, so the name will be child of campaign name. We will be adding in here, and this is the variable we just passed, which is the campaign name in here. So we are taking that parameter, putting in here, appending to it child of campaign name. Owner ID. So let's put it in here. owner ID, and this will be camp owner ID. And we will have as well parent campaign ID, parent campaign ID, and it is going to be parent, which is the campaign ID itself. There is no parent, so this is the campaign ID, and the start date will be the campaign start date. Start date, and this will be the campaign start date. Is there anything else? Nope. All right, so let's save it, name it, activate it, and we should be good to go. All right, here we go. Any questions? So far, so good. So let's check the challenge then. All right, so what we learned so far, we are just creating an auto launch flow, and then we are creating a button, which will be when we click, this gonna trigger this specific flow, doing a clone for the case or cloning for the campaign as we just did. We made it. All right, so let's tackle the next one. Let's continue with the custom button. If you remember, if we came back in here, so this is the child for the campaign, but this is for the case. Let me open it as well in here. If you remember, we didn't pass any parameters. We are expecting in here to have all of these gray parameters as an input. However, if we were in here, which was this one, we didn't pass any parameters. So how can we start passing those parameters? You will find in here you can insert those great merge fields, which will help you to pass those parameters. So how can we start? You will find in here that you need to bind those variables which you created in the flow with those merge fields. So the merge field will start with this brackets, and it's going to be exclamation mark. So you need to map it one by one. So if it's a case ID, you need to map it to the case ID. But how can you start even putting that? You need to start putting a question mark to say there are some parameters will be coming. And if you have multiple parameters, you need to add the and sign in here in order to be able to add multiple parameters. So let's put it in practice. In order to add parameters, we need to put a question mark. And then I need to go here for the variable. It's called case ID. So this is what we are mapping. So I'll go in here, case ID equals. And what is the value? So I'll be putting in here the case ID. And this is exactly what we are looking for. This is the name of the parameter equals the merged field. And if I need one more, I will say and. So this is the case ID. And after that, I will need to add the case subject. So case subject, I'll copy it from here. I will say this is the name of the parameter coming from the flow case subject to the next one. And after I do that, I will say equals, and I will say in here, I need the case subject. So it's the subject one. All right, where is the subject? Here we go. So I'll put the subject. So I'll keep appending. So while you are doing that, in case you have a complex logic, you need to make sure that the syntax is still correct. So you need to keep adding all of these parameters. All right, so we covered all of that. Accordingly, we're going to end up with question mark, variable name, bind it to a merged field. So we're going to end up with a URL like this great one. And then once we finish executing this flow and passing all of these parameters to the flow, we need to return to certain records. So we add and return URL, and we specify which record we need to go back to. So we will be going back to the case ID. Check the syntax, making sure it's good, and then we will be hitting quick save. And this is what we covered in here. So we are understanding how can we amend this URL. So we got the URL from the flow itself, and then after that we started to add the question mark, telling Salesforce that the following will be some parameters and what follows are arguments, and then we are adding those input variables, and then we add the merge fields, and then we are specifying what will be the return URL. All right, now we created the button, saved it, and we are good. Is it usable? The user still can't see the button. How can we do that? We have to go for the lightning record page and create a new lightning record page. So we'll go in here, say, let's create a new Lightning page for the case. This is going to be a record page. I will be hitting next. What will be the name for this Lightning record page? I will name it case record page, and this for the object case. And when we do that, you have either to choose page template from scratch in here or clone the Salesforce to the default page in here. I will go for the grouped view default. This is what they mentioned, and I will be just hitting done. So Salesforce has its own. When you open the case now, you can see a Lightning page. So we're saying clone everything to the default. With that view, you have different views that you can pick from, but we will go for the case grouped view default and hit done. Now, how can we add the button? You will find here in the highlight panel up there, we have certain buttons, but those are driven from the page layout, which is the old way of doing things in the classic. Now we are saying we have everything now dynamic with the Lightning experience. So it gives you an option up there to say upgrade to dynamic actions. I believe we learned all of that in the Lightning experience related modules. So that's why we are not covering in depth anything in here. But for now, all of what we need to do, upgrade to dynamic actions. This will move those buttons from, it's just this highlight panel entirely is like a black box for us. But will give us the control for every button to put the visibility and all of this great stuff for the dynamic actions. So when I do that, I can say migrated, and this is exactly what they are saying in here, and I need to migrate from the case layout. So I'll take whatever actions currently in the case layout, put it in here as custom actions, as you can see. And it is giving us the option to say, if I just need to see this specific button or action, when we satisfy certain criteria, we can do that when we are in the specific device and so on. All right. But what we need to do, we don't need to change anything of the existing. We need to add a new one. And what will be the action name? It's a clone closed case. If the button we just created, we need to add it in here. I can have a visibility control, but for now, I need to add it for everybody. And what I need to do, I need to just have it on the top so we can easily find it. Once we do that, save it, activate it, assign it as an org default for the desktop and phone. Activated, add, clone. We did all of these great stuff. Add action, drag the clone, save, activate the page, and make it for the desktop and phone. Save it. All right. So now, if we went back to the home page and I went for the case object, in theory, if I opened any case, I should be able to see this new action button, but for sure it's still caching. So let's clear out the cache, empty cache, and hard reload the whole thing. And once we do that, the new button should be visible for us. All right, now I have closed case. So what we are cloning, let's go back in here. So we are cloning the account ID, and we are cloning the subject and type. So in here, let's see that we have all of these value populated. So account ID, I have an account. Do I have a subject? Let's fill subject, my subject. And do I have a type? Do we have a type? Yes, we have a type. All right. So let me see. The expectation, if I did a query, and we will be learning SOCL at some point, I will say, get me the account ID. And I need this from case, and I need the subject, type, and the clone from. This is what we are doing. Part of this exercise, we created this new custom field where ID equals this ID, which we are dealing with, or cloned from equals the same one. So now I don't have anything that cloned from this one. But the moment I go back in here, let me open this specific case in a new tab. The moment I go in here and say clone, the background job gonna work. You see, it's a new one, and then return it back to my case. with the subject, my subject. And when I go there and execute, I'm expecting to have a new record saying it's cloned from the original one. And this is exactly what happened. So I have a new case with a brand new ID, same account ID, same subject, same time, and it's showing a cloned from. If I click one more, same thing gonna happen. A new record is gonna be created, and in here we will have all that magic happen. Any questions so far? Lovely. All right, so let's jump to the hands-on challenge. Do the same thing for the child campaign. So we have already this a flow which we built for the campaign. And if we came back in here, this is the child campaign. So if we are going back in here, refresh this guy. If you remember, in order to create this button, you need to have the URL. So I'll go in here, view details as a refresher, and I'll go for the URL. I will go for the object manager. I will go for the campaign object now, and I will go for buttons, links, and actions, and create a new button. And the name of the button will be the one they told me to do, create child campaign. No. So this is the URL. So let me take this guy, put it in here, Control V. But the label is different. It's just child campaign. Here we go. What do we need to do? We need to do it a detailed page button, exactly like what we did. Do we have the header? No, without side header. Same thing, without side header. And this is going to be the URL. All right, enter. And then we need to set those parameters. So campaign ID. So I'll need an question mark, campaign ID. And I will say this is equal. Insert here, campaign ID. And then in order to add one more parameter, I will add, and then camp name. Here we go. And I need to go for here to say the campaign name. All right, so camp name equals campaign name. And camp owner in here. And I will go equals campaign owner. Here we go, owner ID. What else? Camp start date. And camp start date. Here we go. Perfect. Camp start date is a special one. Why? Because all of these are text, but the camp start date is a date. So in order to do that, we need to use a method in here. And what is the method? The method is called text. It just takes this ID and this date and make it as a text. So we're gonna put it in here, and the value will be start date. Here we go. Lovely. All right, so we passed all the parameters. We made it as text. Let's check the syntax. The syntax is working as expected. So make sure that you put, in case you need to transform from a start date into a text, you need to use the method. And then put the return URL. So we need to do exactly the same thing. And the return URL in here, and return URL will be the campaign ID. And this is what they are looking for. Check syntax one more time. Quick save. We made it happen. So we covered until here. Now we need to go and create a landing page. So after we saved, I will go save one more time to make sure it's saved. Lightning record page. New. Record page. Next. This is the name. And it is going to be on the object called campaign. And next, and the clone Salesforce, and it is going to be grouped. Here we go. Everything is exactly what we need. I will go in there and I will upgrade, and I will say migrate, and it is going to be coming from the campaign layout. Finish. And what we going to do after we do that, we will be just upgraded. So we need to do add the button we have. So after we migrate, add the child campaign action, add action in here, and this is child campaign. And I'll be hitting add. Let me put it on the very top, exactly like what we did last time. And finally, I will save, activate, make it for as assign as org default for the desktop. Assign as org default for the desktop. Save, save, and we are good. So let's check. Any questions? So far, so good. All right. The next one, we will be doing the scheduled flow. Lovely. But before we go there, having a scheduled flow, I just want to add a very small optimization to that one. If you notice that within the clone case, we are passing a lot of parameters. How about we need to clone 15? I would not be adding to that URL 15 and doing the mapping one by one. What is ideal to do it in there? I don't actually need all of these details. I don't need the subject. I don't need the time and so on. I can just pass the ID. And once I pass the ID, I can get the record, get all the details you are looking for, and then do the mapping. So let's go beyond and let's do this small optimization for that one. So I will be doing get record in here. And within the get record, I will say get case details. Get case details. Here we go. And what I need to bring this data from, I need to bring it from the case. I need to just say when the ID equals the case ID parameter. What I need to do, I need to have only the first record, that's fine. And I will need to automatically store all the fields. Now I have all the case details. Accordingly, when I go in there for the cloned case, I need this rather than getting it from the parameter. I will say, get it from here, from the case details. Cloned case, yes, keep it as a parameter because I'm passing this as a parameter anyway. But this one, get, and I will say, get me the subject. And the type, I will be doing the same thing in here, and the type, case type. Lovely. So this is as a new version. Save it. Perfect. What else I need to do? I don't need those parameters anymore. So I can go confidently and say, I don't need all these three parameters. I just need one input parameter. So save it and activate it. What else I need to do? I need to go back in here within the button. The button we just added for the clone case, I will be doing an edit. And the URL, I just need to simplify it. Send one parameter. So I'll be taking out all of these extra parameters from subject to account ID to type, because I will be bringing all of these information from in there. Accordingly, the URL became very simple. I'm just passing the case ID. Check syntax, save it. So now we have a very simple parameter in the case ID. When I go in there, the case ID will be taken. I'll get all the case details, put it the clone case. So in theory, if I click the same button for the close case, I should be seeing the same result. So we used to have only two records. And when I do clone close case, it should succeed. And when I go there, I have the same exact result. One new case with the same things copied over, but now it's copied over not from a parameter I passed, it's copying over from the original case, and I'm doing the same clone from. Any questions? So far, so good? Awesome. All right. And we passed this one. The last unit gonna be for the schedule a flow. All of what we did so far was to click a button or having another automation to call my Autolaunched flow. But now it's the time for having the clock trigger my flow, having a scheduled trigger flow. What is the difference between a scheduled trigger flow and the scheduled path? We learned it last time. So let me close all of these great stuff and clone case in here. And let me go back for the home flow, just to visualize what we are talking about. In here, new flow. Within the trigger flow, within the record trigger flow, you have in here, if I have an action and related records, you can have a scheduled path related to it. So add the scheduled path. And this can be when case is created after 1 hour. After 1 hour. So this is another scheduled path. How can we, what is the difference between this one and if we went back in here saying the flow, and I need to have a new scheduled flow. Scheduled trigger flow. What is the difference between those two? This is still waiting for a record to trigger that flow, and then I will react based on one of the attributes within that record to do something in the future. This is the scheduled path. It's still record-driven trigger. However, this one, no, there is no record that will trigger that one. Whenever the start date is today and the set time is 1 a.m. and it will be running either once or daily or weekly, it's gonna trigger. So this is the difference. In the record trigger flow, you learn about the scheduled path, the flow type in here, record trigger, but in here it's a scheduled trigger. For the trigger in here, it's a record created, updated, here the date and time. What time? A specific amount of the time after the trigger, or a specific amount of time before or after date on the triggering record. Because I can say before the contract expiration date, or before something, a date in the future. But in here, I will be saying this is a specific date and time. It's not dependent on any records. Frequency, run once for each time it's triggered. Here, run once daily or weekly. So far, so good? Love that. All right, why we use scheduled trigger flow? This is when we need to fill missing information. This is when we need to escalate open tasks or cases that have open for long. So we just query the data, and based on certain criteria, we need to react on a daily basis. So automatically escalate open tasks or cases that are open for too long, check contacts for missing certain fields and fill it, push a batch of changes overnight. It's like if you are in the development side, you have batch Apex as well. So you can use a declarative way using the flow to do the same thing. If you can define a change in the flow, you can push them in batches. You can push updates from a CSV file, but you can, for example, reassign all accounts in this territory to another one and so on. All right, in many cases, you could use either a scheduled path or a scheduled trigger flow. The main difference is this is, again, recorded change, but this one has just whenever the time comes, it's gonna trigger. Whereas a scheduled trigger flow does all of its work at a specific time and at specific frequency. All right, a scheduled path can email each contact creator a few days after the contact is created. The timing is based on the contact creation date. A scheduled trigger flow can send out all notices for all incomplete contacts every Sunday. So I hope we understand the difference. So to summarize, run at specific time, run independent of a record change, run through many records at one time, run daily or weekly. So it's a batch flow that's gonna run independent on the records on the background, and it's auto launched, so it's a background process as we mentioned, but it's mainly based on a time and frequency. All right, so before we start, it seems it is going to be a background job that's going to run in order to do certain things. Which user going to run those ones? All right, so if we came back in here, back into here, if you remember, we have automation settings, process automation settings, and here you will find the default workflow user. This is the user will be used in order to run those auto-launch flow. How about we need to send an email? So we have automated process user email address. What would be the email address? I can put in here an email address like Yalla Salesforce. But this, when I save, it's gonna complain. Why? Because we need to define this as a organization-wide email address. You will find in here saying it's incorrect. So how can we do that? We go in here again within the setup saying organization wide address is under the email, and you will need to define organization wide email address, OWE. So in here I will say add, this is the display name Yalla Salesforce, and this is how it will be showing. It's coming from Yalla Salesforce, and it is gonna be the email, and this allow for everybody for now, and let's hit save. If I did that, is that done? The answer is no. You need to verify that email address. So in order to do that, I will need to open my email to show you. Within in here, I will be receiving an email like this guy. You will be saying, dear Yalla Salesforce, you are adding this as an org-wide email, and you need to verify it. Once you verify it, now you can go back in here. So we verified that one. Let me close this guy, and I will go back to process automation, how we started the journey, process automation settings, and I'll be putting my email now, and when I hit save, now it's saved. All right, so now we did all the configuration that allow us to run an automation, like a scheduled flow, and we have the email address as well added. What is the last time? We are saying it is gonna run every day at 10 a.m. Which 10 a.m.? Is it Toronto 10 a.m. or Australia 10 a.m. or India, and so on? So we will go in here to the company information. And within the company information, you will have here the default time zone. So I'm in the Eastern Daylight Time. So when I say 10 a.m., there's going to be at 10 a.m. for Eastern time zone. So far, so good. So let's go to the module. In here, we will be doing some hands-on. We will be creating a custom object, and within this custom object, we'll create a custom field called value. And the whole purpose to create a scheduled trigger flow. This scheduled trigger flow will go query the cases where it's a priority equals high and it's not yet closed, to get the number of those cases and store it in that custom object. So let's jump to it. I'll take the label for the custom object in here. I'll go to the object manager, create a new custom object. And in here, we have the matrix, and this is the description. In here, there was an auto number requirement. The auto number requirement, it will be archived. Here we go. This is the record name. Keep it as is. This is the display format, and we're gonna start it from 1 and allow reports to be checked. All right, let's create a tab as well. This will help us in case we need to access that object. We'll be picking in here any tab style. Next, make it visible. Yep, perfect. Save it. Now we created the custom object as instructed. After that, we need to create a custom field. So I'll go in here, fields and relationship, and within here, I will be saying new, and it is gonna be a number. And I'll be hitting next. The field label will be just value, and we have it, keep it with the default. It's just count. Next, keep the defaults, and now we created the custom object and the custom field. Now let's go back, create a flow, and this time it's gonna be a scheduled flow. So new flow, and in here I will be saying it's a scheduled trigger flow. This will run enter tomorrow's date and the current time. So tomorrow's date is gonna be 11th, and I'll be putting in here anytime. And within there, add get record element. So this is gonna be running daily, and add get record, and the label is get high priority cases. The object is gonna be case. And within the case, I will need to only pick the ones having the priority equals high. And I need to have closed equals false. So this guy is false, and this priority equals high. Now we are satisfying both conditions. How many records? I need to get all the records and automatically store all the fields. Perfect. In order to get the count, this is something we didn't discuss before. but I will have in here assignment. And within the assignment, I have the option to pass a list and get the count. So that means it's count cases. This is what I need to do in here. And I need to create a variable. So I can come in here saying I need to create a new resource, and the variable will be its case count. And the data type will be number. And it is decimal 0, and the default value is 0. So now we created this number, and what I need to here, I do equals count. What I need equals count, I need to get high priority cases. Now we are doing the count cases, putting the equals count cases from get high priority cases, exactly like what we did. All right, so after the assignment, I will need to create the record, because as we mentioned it before, without a data element, nothing happens. So I will go in here, create record, and it is gonna be in the archive record, in the archive object we just created. So create archive the matrix. So in here, put it in there. And what we need to do is the object is archive the matrix. So we didn't construct again any variable. So I'll go in here and I will say this is for the archive the metric. And what we need to set the value we just created with the variable, which is the case count. Any questions so far? So far, so good? Lovely. All right. So, and that's about it. Let's save it. And let's name it daily high priority cases. Awesome. All right. Activate it. So this is going to be running daily, and it's going to do its magic. The next topic in here we're going to cover is update multiple record with the $ record global variable. What we mean by that, you will find in here that we have to choose object. We haven't chosen anything in here. That's why in order to build this data set that we are playing with, we need to have this get record. But we have an option to choose an object. And when we choose an object and set the criteria, this will be put in the $ record. All right. So in record trigger flow, you can use $ record global variable to access and update the record that triggered the flow. This is a single record. But here it's different because it's a scheduled flow. That means it is going to be a collection. So whatever number of records are satisfying this one. So when it's scheduled trigger flow, the $ record global variable actually refers to multiple records. When you select the scheduled trigger flow start element, you have an option to choose the object and define your criteria. All right. So now it's about doing a batch job. Now we can have this batch job scheduled based on certain criteria to do a certain logic. Because of that criteria, find records from only one object, and the same actions are performed for all those records. The flow can process all the records in larger group called batch. And it's very efficient to have things in batch if you can. Think of batches of records like bananas coming together in a bundle. So use the $ record in here, and we can use the $, record global variable while we are selecting, or we can update even related records if we need to do the update. So in the flow element is available as a global variable. In the update record element, we have those two options. So let's jump to it, build the flow, see it in action, and wrap it for the day. So build the schedule trigger flow. Let's go back in here, create a new flow. So setup, and I will go for the flow. New flow, schedule the flow, schedule trigger flow. And in here, there's going to be start tomorrow, the current time, and weekly. So pick a time, and it is going to happen weekly. But the new thing that we didn't do last time, that I need to go and choose an object. And here they are not specifying the criteria. So I will go for account. That means bring me all the accounts. There is no conditions. So they are saying in here, say none run flow for all accounts. What I need to do, I'll go and bring all the accounts belonging to these records for the accounts. All right, so I'll go in here, say get records, and within the get records, I will be saying find the context. I need to find the contacts that satisfying certain criteria. So I'll go in here saying find contact. What do we need to achieve? We need the account ID equals those account IDs. All right, so account ID equal the $sign record, triggering account ID. That makes sense. Okay, here we go. Now, how many records to store? Only the first record. We'll just get one account, one contact, my apologies, and we will be storing all the fields. After we get the record element, add a decision. If we found any contacts related to those accounts, we'll go for a branch. Otherwise, we'll go for another branch. So we are adding in here a decision element. And within the decision element, we will have contact found and contact not found. All right, so the first one, contact found. Perfect. API define one outcome, which is the yes. So this is the contact found API name. And this one will be in here, yes. We'll be putting it in here. So this is gonna be yes. All right. And how can we check that? We will go for the contact find from contacts, which is in here, this guy. And if it's null, that means it's empty. But if we are saying is null equal false, so that means it has a value. So we'll go in here, find contacts, and this is null equals false. Otherwise, it will be no, which is in here, default outcome. Let's name it no. Lovely. And this false has to be this false. All right. So what we are doing in here, we are querying all the accounts, getting the contact, get the first contact that is part of that account. If we have a single match, that means we will go in here into the yes. Otherwise, we will go for the no. What we need to do in case we found that contact, we will be creating a chatter post mentioning people. So if you remember from the session of the actions, in order to create a chatter post, we were creating a text template. And the very first thing to change it to plain, because the chatter post doesn't support this formatted rich experience. And all what we're gonna do, we will be putting the record owner manager ID, and we are mentioning the account has no contacts and owner at record owner ID. So all what we are doing, we are going for the accounts that has no contact, and then sending that chatter message. All right, so what is the name of the chatter? This is called chatter body. This is the API name. Perfect. And this is the chatter body. All right, so on no path, so we got this one. Yes, we have contacts, yeah, but if we don't have any contacts under that account, we'll be sending a chatter post. So in here, we can do an action, post to chatter, and the post to chatter can be chatter to post to manager. This is going to be the name. Here we go. And the message will be chatter body, and we will be relating it to the triggering account ID, which is in here, the record account ID. Lovely. All right, that's it. Weekly check for contacts. Save it. Here we go. Put it in there, and we are done. So we'll not be testing this one because we will be applying the hands-on challenge, and then we can manipulate the time and see where can we see those are running, and we'll take it from there. So what we need to do in here, create a flow that run daily, checking contact record for missing data. If record value doesn't meet those requirements, check a custom checkbox field on that record to post on a record chatter and post to a chatter. So now we are not doing an accounts and contacts, we are just checking missing data within the contact. All right, so since we need to take this custom field within the contact, so let's go and create this custom field. All right, we will go back in here, object manager, and within the contact, lovely, contact, fields and relationships, I will be hitting new. And I need to create a checkbox. So here we go. Here is the checkbox. Say new. This is the missing, and it's by default, it's unchecked. Perfect. Missing data. Everything is as exactly they are expecting us to do. I'll make it visible for now. Next, and I will hit save. Now we created the custom field. Then we will need to create a scheduled flow. So I'll go in here, flow, create a new flow, and it is going to be a scheduled flow. What do we need to do? We need to run it 1 a.m. daily and start any day in the past. So I'll be just picking any 1 a.m. and it has to be daily. All right, which object? We need to go for the contact. So I'll go in here, choose object, and I will say this is for the contact object. What are the criteria? So missing data equals false. So we already didn't flag it yet as missing data equals true. So we need the ones are not yet flagged. And then we are saying either account ID is null or first name is null. So let's put it in here, account ID, first name. What else? Email and business phone. Email and finally business phone. And this is null, 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 null. And this is true, 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 and finally true. But I need to do some custom conditioning in here. Why? Because I want to say it's missing data and one of those is null. So I will say and 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and let's close the bracket. Sounds perfect. Create a text template. So we did exactly what they are looking for. Now it's time for the chatter. So I will be creating a text template, make it a plain text. We're going to name it the chatter body. And this is the chatter body in here. Body, any text you want, but must mention the current contact owner. So let's enter the current contact owner. That means the triggering contact. And I'm looking for the owner ID. And in order to mention people, as we mentioned before, we need to put it in a bracket and at. Contact has been marked as missing data. That's it. Done. All right. So after we do that, we need to update the contact. If it's satisfying this criteria, I'll go back in here saying update contact. And this is the label they are expecting. Update contact, update contact. All right. We will need to, how to find the records to update and set their values, use contact record global variable. So it's like we have a collection of those contacts that is part of this. So use the contact $ record global variable. We can as well update related, but for now we are just updating. What do we need to set? We need to set missing data and we need to set it to true. All right, so we did this part. After that, we need to update contact element, add an action element to post to chatter. So what will be the label? This is post to chatter. So in here, chatter, post to chatter. This is the post to chatter, and the message will be body, chatter body, and the target name has to be the triggering contact ID, triggering contact, and it's the contact ID. Perfect. So it's a $ contact ID. All right. I think we made it. Now let's just save it and activate it and validate that everything we did in here is as expected. All right. So saved, activate, and let's check. Any questions? So far, so good. All right. Once we done that, I will show you where can you monitor as well those scheduled flows. Woohoo! We did this module together. All right, so let's go back in here. I'll go back in the home And how can we monitor it? So if I went in here in the setup and I said, show me all the scheduled jobs, you will find in here, check contact field. This is running daily. It just submitted now. And since we couldn't finish this morning, this part, so we are continuing now. So it's 6:19 p.m. And then the next run is 1 a.m., exactly like what we configured. But let's change the schedule to run in the next minute and see how this will be in action. So I'm going back in here. Let's change this to be 06 and make this 22 p.m. and see whether it's gonna run or not. So we change it in here, save it as a new version, and activate it. Accordingly, I'm expecting if I went back into here into the scheduled job, this should say this is submitted now. The next run gonna run in 1 minute. So let's do some queries to see those contacts. So select ID from contact where missing data equals false. What we were tracking business phone, which is this one, account ID, this one, first name and email. First name and email. Do we have any data now showing? And let's see the missing data. And I need to have missing data equals true. All right, so we don't have data yet. As soon this run, any information that we have one of those is null, it should update. Here we go. Now I'm just refreshing, running the same exact query that returned no data before, but here I have the phone is missing, so it's true. This one is the email is missing. This one is phone, and so on. I'm expecting as well, if I went into the Salesforce and I checked the chatter, we should have in here saying it's marked as missing. Accordingly, we were able to validate that this scheduled job is running and it started and updated the corresponding date. Any questions? So far, so good? Perfect. Thank you very much. I can't thank you enough for making the time, and have a wonderful day, and see you the following week. So we will be off next week, but the following week we will be meeting. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.